For more reaction, I'm joined in the studio by Wits School of Governance Professor Susan Booysen. Always good to have you with us, Prof. Thank you so much for coming in. Just before we went on air, you and I were counting the number of reshuffles under President Jacob Zuma's administration since 2009.
I believe we have the 12th one today, and that gives an average lifespan of around 8.5 months per cabinet. And that is actually horrendous, but it is also a typical part, I believe, of the president's strategy to keep control, to reshuffle, not just to get rid of critics and enemies and try to take out insurance for his next 2 years of rough future, but also to destabilize the people in there. Can never quite get in command of their portfolios. They're always insecure. They can never, importantly, never quite assume responsibility. There can always be a reason why they shouldn't be held responsible. And then the more that happens to the underlings in cabinet, and the president also, as part of the strategy, also keep weaker people in there who think they should have been fired, but then remain extremely loyal to the president because if others could be fired, they could be fired, or reshuffled musical chair style. And the president retains so much more control for himself if his ministers do not develop in-depth expertise of their portfolios.
Prof, looking at the configurations ahead of December, how much does this play into the elective conference?
Oh, it really does. In the first place, it demonstrates that this president still has power. He is so discredited in many respects, and he has lost so much power, many in the ANC caucus in parliament, not majorities, but state position to reshuffle and to make appointments that demonstrate his power. And that it strengthens his hand and the hand of his proxies going into the conference. And it shows it is kind of one-upmanship that says, listen, I can do what I want. I have this power. And that is seriously demoralizing as well on his opponents.
The SACP has come out saying this is basically an attack on the party. This is an all-out war on the SACP. But exactly what can they do about it, if anything at all? Or even COSATU within the tripartite alliance, for that matter?
So much is happening in South African politics at the moment around the president's formal powers. In one way, he really undermines himself as well, because he does all these outrageous and unreliable things like reshuffles and crazy appointments, but he remains in power. So he discredits himself and he undermines his own legitimacy. And so in a bigger picture, that really counts against the president, counts against the ANC. But in the immediate the way things are unfolding, he retains those powers, and he continues doing damage to the country, nurtures further uncertainty and more ideas that there are tricks in his bag. For example, when we look at the nuclear dispensation and his support in the past for the nuclear dispensation and belief continuous, and how that is linked to some parts of today's reshuffling. And so he really undermines himself and the country and the ANC in many ways. And the chickens come home to roost there, because it is these ANC structures, the NEC, the cabinet, and majority ANC in parliament, who tolerate this president without taking action against him. So at the end of the day, there barely are any winners in this kind of action.
Let me ask you this, Prof, to wrap. I mean, what happens from here on out with regard to the tripartite alliance? We've got the SACP and COSATU raging to remain in that union within the ANC, but one has to wonder why.
Is there really a tripartite alliance left today? It is in a dismal condition, virtually imploded. If we compare it to 10 years ago, just after Polokwane and the ecstasy of the SACP and COSATU at that stage, there is nothing left of that. Whatever the road ahead for the tripartite alliance really means, people would have to, those alliance partners, would have to return to base one and rebuild that alliance if it can ever be resuscitated in future. future. There are other SACP members remaining in cabinet, but they are not the fierce critics of the president. So in that way, it's about removing and silencing critics, and the tripartite alliance is a part of that.
Can I ask you, are you surprised that Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma did not make it into any cabinet positions this time round?
I think not, because she really, giving her campaign is going strongly, but not as strongly as I had hoped. I believe she really needs every bit of her time to spend on her campaign for ANC succession, rather than assuming responsibility for a new portfolio. And besides, it would be a position that would almost definitely change at the beginning of the year. If she or her associate and Zuma proxies do not win at the end of the year, there would be repercussions for the position that she holds. If, on the other hand, she does succeed at the end of the year, she would want to be probably in a much more senior position than the president would put her in now. So I think it's more strategic, because she would be scrutinized immensely in any new cabinet position. So I think this gives her time, courtesy of President Zuma, to do more campaigning.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Good to have your insight into that story, Prof. Wits School of Governance Professor Susan Booysen.